Welcome to the home of Clarence Tom Ashley and Hetty Ashley. They lived here in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. My name is Jodine Ashley, and over somewhere, where is he? Over here next to the car. This is my cousin, Tom Moore, and we are the grandsons of Clarence and Tom and Hetty. Before I go any further, I forgot to explain this last time. I sometimes refer to my granddaddy as Clarence, the way his recordings are. Everybody else in Johnson County always has and still do call him Tom. And if I can remember at the end, I'll tell you why I call him Clarence. So, 40s, 50s, and 60s. Growing up here, Tom grew up over in Saltville, Virginia. His mother's Eva Ashley Moore, and my Uncle Robert Moore. They were over here an awful lot. I grew up next door, next house up, and some of you local folks probably may remember my parents, J.D. and Hazel. And growing up here on Woods Hill, which is the gateway to Forge Creek, was a good experience. It was a great way to grow up. It was quiet and peaceful. And some might say it was boring. But I preferred the quiet and peaceful attitude. But there was plenty of things to do. This was it wasn't a full farm. The Millers lived across the road over there, had a huge farm operation going on then. My grandparents did a little bit of light farming. My granddaddy was good at growing tobacco, had a couple of nice tobacco crops every year. And that was the thing. My grandmother had milk cows and chickens. So we had a little bit of a farm going here. But if it ever did get boring, you could come around and look out and see down here if there might be a bunch of cars parked down at this house. And if there was a good chance there were a bunch of guys down here making music. And that made everything worthwhile. And I was going to tell you a little bit about during the 40s and 50s was a time in my granddaddy's musical career that he wasn't performing very much. His type of music he played in the 30s just kind of went out of fashion for a while. It became a little more modernized, but he wanted to stay in music, and he liked to just keep involved even if he wasn't performing. And I was going to tell you a little bit about some of the musicians who used to come here and play and play at other places in the county. But this little pamphlet that Minnie showed you has an outstanding article in here by John Taylor. And he tells the story a lot better than what I had prepared. So I'm just going to borrow his story. And John, he starts out by saying he met Tom Ashley. First met Tom Ashley in 1951. And in 1951, I was 9 years old. And the answer, in case you're counting, it's 74. So, and John was a little older than me, but not a whole lot. So let me read you his story, and this is just excellent. He says that he and his singing partner Roscoe Gamble, and I remember Roscoe too. He had a mustache, I think, probably not in '51, but a little later. He had a mustache, and these boys were excellent singers. John played, as I call it, he played a mean mandolin, and he said they were playing up at the Bean Market in Mountain City. And this is when Johnson County was the bean capital of the world. And big bean market. And here's what he said. Tom was standing in front, listening and watching. When we finished playing, he came up and said, "You boys got some talent, but you need some help." That's John's pronunciation, help. Need some help. And he said, "I can help you. Put a band together and show you how to act in front of people." So that's a perfect example of what my granddaddy did. He would find a group, or they would find him, and he would, I'll use my pronunciation, he would help them, whatever they needed. And if it was how to stand in front of people, he would help them do that. And he could help them on other things, like get their harmonies straight and keep their instruments in tune. And a lot of the musicians would come here and play back in the kitchen. He would come out on the front porch, listen to what they were playing back there. And as a little kid, I'd like to come down there and get back there and listen. It's some of the best music I've ever heard in my life. It's really outstanding. So he would take whatever job, whatever they needed. The job he liked best was to be the manager, be the boss of everything. That was his favorite job. But if they don't need that, he would do things like he would be their booking agent, or he would be an MC if they wanted an MC, or do a little comedy, and just everything they wanted. John goes on to say here, he says their band he put together consisted of the Fiddlin Fred Price, he was always there, Earl Payne, Hardin Allen, and the two guys singing, and then he says Tom, they would play up on John's front porch. He said Tom would be there to advise, support, and encourage. And he was instrumental in booking the band with the Arthur Smith TV show in Charlotte, North Carolina, and live radio shows on WATA in Boone, North Carolina. So there's an example, and I saw them on that TV program. It must have been 1953 from Charlotte, and it couldn't have been 51 because we didn't have a TV in 51. But I saw them on TV, and they were really good. They looked good, and they came on, and 5 of them playing, and they sounded good. And I got to looking real carefully, and back in the background was my granddaddy back there picking on a guitar, like he was backing them up, and they had made him get in that. They wanted him in the TV show with them, although he I don't know if he actually picked anything or if he was just faking it like that. But he really had a wonderful time in the 40s and 50s working with these groups before the big rediscovery happened in 1960. Among the people who used to come here to play were a couple of guys named Fred Price and Clint Howard. They used to come here and pick in the house here, and they were always my favorites. Clint, I got to know better after I moved back up here. Him and his son Clarence, I would run into them down in Mural Fest, playing with Doc and other locations, and we got to talk quite a bit. And those two guys were gifted musicians and two of the nicest guys you'd ever meet. Fred Price, I knew him in 1953, whatever, and he seems like he was here forever. And he was a great fiddler, and he was always my favorite, not necessarily because of his fiddling, but he was so nice to me. He just treated me. He talked to me and spent a lot of time with me, and he talked to me not like a man to a kid, but he talked to me like I was a grown-up in a kid's suit. And he was definitely always my favorite. Now, today we have, if they're in there, I've talked about the 3 guys that are on this year, 3 of the 4 guys that are on this year's mural, 4 or 5 if you count my granddaddy in the background, which I didn't know that was going to happen. And personally, I was kind of touched. But anyway, it is very appropriate here today, and I hope they can hear this for a cue. It's appropriate today that we have the 4th guy, or 5th, however you're counting, that was on the mural, the son of Fred Price, Kenny Price. Kenny, are you ready? Kenny! Kenny's he's on the mural. If y'all saw the mural, he's a handsome guy in front with a banjo. And I told the other group this morning that Kenny looks just as handsome on that old mural on the wall when he was young. He looks just as handsome on there as he does today. How about a nice hand for our special guest, Kid Clarence. And on the guitar, one of Johnson County's finest musicians. I saw him up on the street last night, busking, playing with a three-man group, and they were absolutely terrific up there. Please welcome Jerry Moses.
We're going to start off with, can you hear us back there? We're going to start off with a Walkin Boss, and I heard this song, 3 different versions of it, within the last month on the radio, on the folk channel. So I was amazed to hear 3 different versions of this song.
On a job, he said, son,